Hello, and thank you to anyone who's listening to this video. I really appreciate it. At this point, I know my skills at making videos are so poor that I, I, I really don't expect anyone to listen because I know how awkward it comes across. So for the learning phase especially, I don't expect that anyone listens. So when they do, I really appreciate it, because it does help motivate me to keep going and keep trying, in the hopes that someday I'll develop the skills to be like those people I admire so much, who can seamlessly cover any topic, and they're doing their live streams. And if I am struggling, like I said before, if I am struggling to talk to when the record button turns on in the middle of an empty room and an empty house, I just can't imagine what it takes to get out there on the street and record a video and feel like when you must feel like a fool, or what skill it takes to do some of these live streams, go from topic to topic so flawlessly. I have such new appreciation for some of these people I watch. The pastors who get up and give sermons in front of people, the teachers who teach classes. I have new appreciation for all of them as I go down this journey, because they don't have the ability always to press the restart button. No, you can't in the middle of a live seminar just hit the restart like I can for the 50th time when making a video. Their mistakes go out for everybody to see, and it takes a lot to overcome your fear and put that aside and put yourself out there like that. So I say thank you. And I say thank you to the video people, to the YouTubers and the pastors and the teachers who do this on a daily basis. Sometimes we don't understand the struggles it took to get you to the point where you can teach a class of 350 people, or even one or two. So let me try to move past that rambling and move on to the real topic of this. I'm trying to, through this video, kind of encourage myself. Right now, thanks in part to being so sick and not being able to go out there and make medicine my reality, but instead having to live on SSI, which that's not the world's greatest income. At its best, $914 is not a livable income, but it's a lot worse when they decide that you owe them money and they take 10% out from your income. 10% of a very small, $914 is not a big thing to start with. When losing that 10%, it's a big deal. And unfortunately, I'm feeling really discouraged, because after my father died, with the loss of his income, the rise in interest rates, and the overwhelming inflation, we realized we couldn't keep our house. It was a beautiful home, and we really loved it. We were so happy there. It had a porch where I could sit down on the cool days like this and just look out, and we were able to have a little tiny garden with raised garden beds, and we planted some mango. We had a mango tree in the ground that had just started to give us, for the first time, it had about 100 mangoes on there. We were so excited to have our first harvest of really meaningful mangoes, but we had to put our house for sale, and unfortunately, as you know, interest rates have been going up, and a lot of the affordable housing that we could pay for, it disappeared just at the time we sold our house. So we've had to, for the past few months, been living from temporary rental to temporary rental, and now it's the holiday season, which is making it hard to find a place. And so we're not sure where we're going to go in the next few days. And that's very discouraging when your dream was to become a doctor and not only help people, but to take care of your family. Like I said before, my dream was I was going to buy my parents a house and a piece of land, and I was going to take them out to eat, and I was going to buy them a car, and I had so many dreams that, unfortunately, because of my illness, and instead, right now, you start to feel like a liability instead of a benefit. So, when I feel in moods like this, and you start getting discouraged and wondering what's going to happen, and fear and worry take hold, I like to take a few minutes and think of some of the wonderful things that God has done, because it's encouraging. It gives hope that if He did those things in the past, even though it seems like, hey, my Etsy shop's going nowhere, my Katie books are going nowhere, I've had to give up my fight to go to school because I don't have the money for school, and the time for that seems to be past, and all this and this is past. Wait a minute, if God did this and this for me, who knows what tomorrow will bring? Who knows what miracle is waiting around the corner? And one of those miracles is how He got us to that house that we had to sell just a few months ago. For years, I grew up in a house that, well, they think might have been over an old illegal dump for off the record, the person from the city said might have been a illegal dump for a nursery, so who knows what type of chemicals were there. And it made, because my sister and I grew up in the house, it made us, probably one of the reasons we got so sick. So we were really desperate to get out of that house, and it seemed like we were never ever going to get out of that house. And then one day we were going shopping to pick up a headboard for the room. My parents, because I couldn't sleep in my bedroom, I spent 7 years sleeping on the sofa because I couldn't be anywhere near my bedroom, and my parents had just built a room in the garage so they enclosed it so I could have a place to sleep, and we were looking for a headboard for my bed, which felt so wonderful to finally have a bed again. And we were at the woody shop looking for the bedboard, and as we were walking out, I go to my mother, I don't know why we're buying this headboard right now. We should wait till after we move to the new house God's going to give us. And I'm like, why did I say that? What new house? We're never going to move out of this house. But I said it with such assurance that we were going to move to a brand new house. A few months later, as I got finished one of the rare successful semesters that I had, where I completed every class that I started, and I was so excited. All of a sudden, I started going to my parents, this is going to be the summer of miracles. Just wait and see. God's going to do miracles for us, and we're going to move. And my mother's like, we're never going to move. I said, don't just you wait and see. God's going to do miracles for us. We're going to move, and we're going to have a brand new house. But we spent that whole summer looking. I mean, we went from one place to another, and we couldn't find a spot that my mother liked. Nothing. And it was fall was starting. It was about time to go back to school, and it was discouraging. And part of going, why did I say it's the summer of miracles, and we're going to move when we haven't found a house? This is so discouraging. And finally, my mother said, we're never going to move. I remember this development I saw over in this place, and they had these cabinets that I liked. Let me go check it out. I said, I'll stay home. I'm tired of going out. I just rather stay home. I just didn't want to see another model home if we weren't going to get a house, because I was really feeling discouraged that God wasn't going to give us that miracle. Well, about an hour later, I get this call from my mother, and she says, do you want to come see this house? This model homes? And it's the hairs on the back of my head just stood up. I just had this weird feeling go down. I'm like, this is the place we're going to move. I don't know why, but when she said that, I knew we were going to move there. And I said, sure, come, hurry up, come pick me up. I told my sister, hey, you want to come see the house we're going to move to? I think, nah, because I don't think she believed it either. And my mother and father came, they picked me up, we went to see the house, and I was so, the model homes, and I was so excited because I knew we were going to move to this neighborhood. I just knew we were going to move there. But again, several weeks went by, I think about a whole month went by, and we were going to see model homes, and they took us to see this 4-bedroom, 2-bath house that had a porch that came screened in. And my mother loved the model, but she would always come and have this reason or that reason. And my father, one day when my mother was out, we were with my sister, we were talking, and my father said, we're never going to move. She's never going to make the decision for the place. We're never going to move there. And I said to my father, yes, we are. Just you wait and see. We're going to go to visit the model, to talk with the salesperson, and we're going to go with a list of questions, and all of a sudden, Mommy's going to turn around and she's going to say, where do we sign? He goes, that will never happen, because my mother is the type that to get a vacuum cleaner that is needed, to get anything for the house, simple little cheap things that are needed, it's a fight to get her, spend $1 even on things she needs. She's just, because we've always been tight of money, she was been afraid to spend money, and to get a house on a whim like that, seemingly, my father said that would never happen. I said, that's exactly what's going to happen. Well, one day we went, and she had a bunch of questions about that model, and she was asking the questions. All of a sudden, she turns around and she goes, where do we sign? Where do we sign the contract? And my father, he leaned behind my mother and looked at me like, mouth dropped to the floor, like, I can't believe you're right. Did my ears just hear this? Did she just, he couldn't believe I was right. And I just mouthed him, I told you so, with a big old smile on my face. And that day, in total shock, my mother, even though our house hadn't sold, we still had our other house. She was like, we're getting this house, and we had picked out the lot. We picked out the colors, and we had the contract signed to build the house. It was, if anyone who knows my mother, they know that alone was a big old miracle from God, that she made the decision. For my father, he knew that's a huge miracle, and God was clearly bringing us to that place to live. But that wasn't the only miracle. Now, we had to sell our house. Fortunately, because we'd been living in there for so long, and my father had reached the age where he could take out something from his retirement, we had paid that house off. So we weren't in a situation like we were when we had to move out of this house, when we had to finally move out of the house where we owed money. But we still needed to sell that house so we didn't have to pay property tax and have the expenses, so we had more money to pay down the other house, the new house. Well, the Lord sent someone to buy the home, and the person came in, and even though it was in the world's greatest neighborhood, the person fell in love with the house, and said, I will buy your house for X amount. Not only was he willing to buy our house, but knowing that we had to build, we're waiting for the new house to be built, and we couldn't move out right away, he said, okay, I will buy your house X amount of months, about 6 months from now, when you're about ready to move into your new home, and I won't charge you rent. You can own the house, and So we got the house was being built. We didn't have to pay 1 penny rent, and about a month or two before our house was finished being built, he bought our house officially, but we didn't have to pay rent. I call that a miracle, because there are very few people who will do that, but God worked it out. Another miracle God did with giving us the house. The land we wanted was a premium lot, and it wasn't being sold at the time. But he got the salesperson to go and talk to the company, and we got that lot. And even though it wasn't open to sell at the time, they opened it up to sell, and they didn't charge us the premium price. That was another huge, huge miracle. Then my mother didn't like, because the floor plan that they were selling in our neighborhood at the time had very tiny windows, and we love to have a lot of natural light coming in, because that makes you happier to have more sunlight. Well, in another neighborhood, when we were looking, he had taken us to a house that had these big windows that were very close to the floor in the front. It let in so much light. But that wasn't being sold in our neighborhood. He went, got the plant. We got the windows we wanted. Then my mother, it was hard for her. She was so worried about the situation. She got cold feet after we sold our house and had the contract. She was kind of nervous. She was panicking, worrying. And she said, was thinking to herself, I wish that we would get a call from Paul, the salesperson who sold the house to us, saying that the house would be discounted, that they would bring down the price because houses were dropping a little bit. But she said she thought that to herself and never said a word, because she said that can't happen. But she prayed, Lord, please, is there a way you could get the price of the house reduced? That you could have Paul call us and tell us that the price of the house would come down? And to our surprise, without us knowing what she was praying, we got a call a few days later from Paul saying, I had good news. You need to come over. I have some good news for you. And it was that we need to sign, my parents need to sign a brand new contract that brought down the price of the house $6,500. It may not have been much, but that was a huge miracle to us, because you hear of companies saying you have to sign a contract to increase the price of the house, but never one saying, you don't hear too often them saying, I'm going to lower the price of the house. But God worked that miracle. And another major miracle was that I was wishing that I told my father, I wish they wouldn't work on the house on Sabbath. It'd be so great if they didn't do that. But my father says, we don't own the house right now. It's not being built for us. It's not something that we can ask. So, it's okay. It was just something I wished. Well, for the whole time that house was being built, we would go and visit the house sometimes on Sabbath, just to stand there and say, this is the house that God is getting for us. And we'd be in the building, just standing there, just saying, thank you, Lord. Oh, I can't wait till we're living in the house. And sometimes my father would go on Friday after work, finish, and wouldn't come back. And Monday when he would come back, after work, he would notice that the house was always in the same position where we started noticing. We would go to visit, and the house next door to us was being worked on. The house across the street was being worked on, but never our house. Never did we have any evidence that our house was worked on over the weekend, so that our house was never worked on Sabbath. So I look at all that. Oh, and I also look at how our dog, we took her to see the house a couple of times, and the first time we went, she didn't know where the house we were taking her to, because she'd never been there before. And in the house next door, there was food. Someone had left their meal in the window. But it was as if someone had shown her that was her house, because she walked straight up to the property, right up to the house that was our house that was being built. pulling with such excitement as if she was saying, "This is my house. I know this is going to be my new house." And it's over and over. It was confirmation that God, we called it God's house. That was the house He gave us. And I know, as discouraging as it is to wonder if we're ever going to have a home again right now, because we're watching this money from the sale of the house disappear every time we have to temporarily rent. And as hard as it is, because it's the holidays, to find a place to stay. And even though sometimes we're getting so fearful that we might end up on the street, when I look back on that miracle that God did for us, when I look back on how He opened the doors for us to spend so many years, 15 years, in a wonderful home, and that my father had the pleasure of dying in a home that meant so much to him, that brought him so much joy, that he felt good living in, I know if He worked those miracles then, He can still and will work miracles for us now. And it builds faith. It keeps the courage from disappearing, because I know if I could trust Him then, He promises that He never changes. So if He's the same God who brought us to that house, He will stay with us. He's the same God today. And even though it seems impossible for us to ever find a home, because it seems like every door's been shut. My hopes of going to medical school was shut. My hopes of going to nursing school was shut. I can't imagine this YouTube channel taking off and making AdSense money like some of the YouTubers I watch. So I can't imagine earning the money that way, like Lumna, who bought these 500 acres and has been building barns and buying these big equipment. I mean, I look and I'm like, Lord, maybe I could do that. And it seems like that's a no. And then I see the people who said, "Oh, I made $9,000 in profit." And I'm like, wow, if I had $9,000 in profit, I wouldn't need SSI. I could pay them back. I could pay for my own insurance. I could pay for some of my iron infusions, my medicine, and I could pay for land and a house. But that seems like a no. I'm not selling books. I sell 15 books and $20 on KDP. That's not going to take you off SSI anytime soon. So everything has seemed like a no, no, no. All the affordable houses have disappeared. But when we made the move to our dream home, it had looked for years like we would never move. It seemed like that dream home was unattainable. Yet God worked miracle after miracle after miracle. And so I know that our impossibilities are nothing to God. God can do amazing things. And, well, I feel down and discouraged because I can do nothing, and everything I'm trying to do seems to go nowhere. I'm trusting that the God who loved me enough to give me 15 years in that beautiful home is the same God who will get me someday, very soon, to that beautiful little bit of land in the semi-country where I can have fruit trees, more fruit trees than I can not just have a mango tree, a citrus tree that I can't even eat, a peach tree that I can't eat from, but my loved ones can. But I can also maybe have a few grapes. I can have some apples, some plums that I can eat, and have room for that, and also have room to have some potatoes and tomatoes and peppers and and improve my health and improve my family's health, and not worry about what, and not keep worrying that where am I going to live tomorrow. I'm going to trust, and I know from the past that God can and will take care of me. And instead of focusing on the fear and uncertainty, by the grace of God, I'm going to remember the miracles that brought me to that beautiful home, that brought us to that beautiful home, and trust that He hasn't run out of miracles yet. And He's just waiting for the opportunity to make it so clear that we will have a new set of stories to share in how God opened doors when everything's impossible. I hope that this gave the story of how God got us to our dream home will encourage you to look at the blessings God has given and not give hope. And I hope that you will have a blessed and wonderful day, and always remember that even though sometimes it doesn't seem like it, God is still there. And if we just look at what He's done, in the past, we could trust that He will take care of us in the future. Goodbye for now, and have a blessed day.